Hi, I'm Syndia. I like sharing my art process and my day in the art studio. If you like art vlogs and if you want some studio inspiration, you might love what I do. Today, I want to talk about a few things that I got recently. I have an art supply haul for you. There's a few things that I know and love that I want to share, but there's also a few things that I've never seen before, completely new, and I want to test it out. All right, I'm gonna show you what I have, saving the best for last, and then after that, I'm gonna do some testing on paper. First, I got 3 kinds of crackle medium crackle paste. I got the golden, the Liquitex, and a local brand here called Try Art. They're very different. These two are thicker. It's more like a big paste, like plaster almost, but this one is super liquid. So I'm really curious to see how it behaves and the type of crackling it does. I did a whole series on, it's an abstract series where I paint orbs, and I used crackling medium, but I used an entirely different brand and I can't find that brand anymore. So I'm testing out these 3 brands and seeing the differences because everything is a little bit different. The thickness will create bigger or smaller scales and different variations in color. It's really interesting. If you've never tried what is it called? Crackle paste. Yeah, crackle paste. It's a lot of fun. I have yet to try it in a landscape painting, but I want to do it. I want to use it in a more like expressive way, obviously. Something like halfway between abstract and figurative, but in a landscape way. I think it would be very interesting. In the same vein, I bought natural sand. It's another type of paste. You've guessed it, it's sand-like. I have no idea how I could use it, but I'm sure if I try, an idea already came up. I paint these pebbles and rocks from like a place that I really love. I collected a whole bunch of rocks and I have a series of pebbles and rocks that I paint, and I think that might be interesting to use as some kind of grit to create textures for the rocks. And talking about that series, I bought clear gesso. A lot of you might know about clear gesso. I've discovered it only recently when I needed some kind of clear primer to start a painting, because those pebbles and rocks, I like doing them on a wood panel instead of canvas. I like seeing the grain of the wood, and I prep it with GAC 100. It's kind of like a glue, a clear glue, to seal the wood so that the acids in the wood won't affect the pigment that I put on the wood. And then I go with clear gesso as a sealant before I start painting. I also like using clear gesso when I paint mixed media paintings. So if I want to put, what would I want to use it for? Let's say I want to put a bit of pastel on top of acrylic, for example, or other things might work as well. Clear gesso has that little bit of grit that helps some pigment grab on to it, but it's clear. So it's very versatile, very useful in many situations. By the way, this painting is from this rock in the shape of a heart. My aunt picked it for me. This is the exact rock that I translated into a painting. I really like it. It's a small format, but I really, really love it. And to help me further in that exploration of my pebbles and rocks, I got these weird stamps made out of rubber. I guess for this, there's probably a handle that I don't have or didn't order. I got this on Amazon. But basically, it's supposed to mimic the grain of wood. So I figured maybe it would be interesting to paint on canvas and mimic some kind of wood grain in different shades, different tones, instead of going directly on my wood panels. I love the wood panels. I'm gonna keep painting on wood panels for these pebbles, but I just wanted to try something else and see if I could get more variation for this series. I'm always on a quest to try something different. I always want to try something different. So I don't know if that's gonna work, honestly. It feels like it might be messy and tricky to use, and it's so large as well. It might take up a lot of paint, but I'm gonna experiment and I'll report back. All right, getting to the more interesting things. I got quite a few charcoal pencils. So I liked that. Well, I don't need more charcoal pencils, I guess, but I like that they were fully a charcoal without the wood that usually you get when you buy a charcoal pencil. You know what I mean? Like, this is wood with some charcoal in the middle, but this is a slick paint that coats the charcoal, but all of this is charcoal. So I don't know how I would like sharpen this, I guess with an exactly the same way I'm doing this, but I thought it was interesting. They looked cool and I just wanted to try them. I really love charcoal. I don't share a lot of charcoal drawing on my channel for some reason. I always have a feeling that people prefer acrylic paint or oil pastel because of the big punch of colors, and that drawing in black and white is a little bit more boring, but I love it. I love it. All right, things are getting interesting now. We have here wax colored pencils made by Black Widow. Never heard of this brand before, but I saw them on Amazon. They seemed really interesting, mainly because of the color selection. These are for skin, so they have two sets, a dark skin tone and a light skin tone, and looking at the colors, they were very interesting, not just for skin tone, but you know how very often in a minimal colored pencil set you would get very vivid colors. All of these are muted colors, neutral shades, because it's for skin colors. But I love neutral shades, obviously, for landscape drawings. And that's probably more how I'll use them, although I love portraits as well. I really like the color selection. The only thing is that because it says wax colored pencils, I'm just wondering how smooth and nice they will feel on paper, but we're gonna test it out. Confession, I've never loved colored pencils. They kind of feel like hard work to me. I like when things slide on the page really easily and you can do big gestural expressive movements to create textures, paint, oil pastels, even soft pastels and charcoal. But when it drags a little bit, I feel like it takes a long time to get something nice and I lose patience. That's how I felt every time I've used colored pencils, but I want to change my mind about them because I feel like they're really nice to bring on location, or if you go traveling, you want something not messy but still with color. I feel like they're a good option in theory, but I haven't found nice ways to use them. I get frustrated usually using them, but I want to work at it. And also I've been very inspired by Sandy Hester on YouTube, the way she uses all types of materials in her sketchbooks. You probably know her. If you don't and you like free expressive type of illustrations and paintings, you would adore her. So I want to work more that way, or try it out at least, get a sketchbook and like channel my inner Sandy and learn to appreciate colored pencils a little bit more. I got some acrylic inks, just a few colors. I already had a dark blue. I got a yellow and a dark green. It looks black, but it's actually green. I love inks to paint florals. I have a whole series of really nice florals. I've done a lot of it in black and white with China ink. I like playing with the puddles of water and moving the ink around and have expressive florals pop by themselves basically. And I've explored red with florals, but I haven't really explored different colors. So I'm venturing into different colors with acrylic inks. And what I like about acrylic inks is that it's permanent. It's gonna be more light fast, I'm assuming. Is there a light fastness? Yeah, light fast. So if I put them on my wall, it's not gonna fade, as opposed to other inks that could be really fadey. That's something to look out for if you don't know. So acrylic inks seem better to me. And I have also a set of metallic acrylic inks. I'm the most excited about these. Copper, gold, and bright silver. The way I want to use them is also for florals, at least at the beginning. That's what I'm thinking. Probably use black ink and then have metallic accents on the black. Sounds good to me. The last thing I got before we go and test out some of the materials is this. What? I don't even know what it's called. Let me check it out. They call them adjustable pens. So they're kind of like a quill or fountain pen in a way, used with ink, obviously, and they are different sizes. You can use that little screw thing to make the tip tighter or wider, and you just dip it in ink and you can draw with them. I've never tried them. I had never seen them before getting those. I saw someone using it on Instagram. It looks so interesting and I just wanted to try them. I like using ink and I thought that this might give an interesting line that other regular pens might not give. I don't know. I'm gonna try it out and I'll let you know. So I'm gonna test some of the stuff. The first thing I want to test is the wax colored pencils. I want to look at the colors a little bit closer and see how I like the feel on paper. I'm gonna test that out. Also, I wanted to tell you that one of my paintings sold. I had a really nice surprise this morning, waking up to an email. Someone bought my painting. Field of Wildflowers has sold. I'm gonna pack it up all nicely and ship it probably today or tomorrow. And I really love that painting. I like the thickness of the flowers. If ever you're curious, I released a mini series of small landscapes on paper. Some are not on paper, landscapes and seascapes, called Quiet Skies. You can go check it out on my website. I'll leave the link in the description box if you want to look at it. There's still a few left. Fields of Gold is left. Copper Hills. This one was done with copper acrylic paint. And there's seascapes as well. Blue Skies Ahead. Stormy Summer Beach, which is done on a thick gallery canvas, and Sweet Dreams. I like Sweet Dreams. I like the pink sky a lot. Usually I calculate the shipping costs separately because shipping can be really, really expensive. But for this mini series only, I've included everything in the price. So no extra cost. Shipping is free, no taxes, no shipping costs. So check it out if you're curious. Now let's go and test out these pencils. All right, I'm gonna start with the light skin tone. There are a lot more vibrant colors in it. This one is Sunburst. It's a lot less draggy than I thought it was. It feels pretty smooth, considering that it's wax. Maybe it's just what they call it. Maybe all colored pencils are wax-based. I'm not very knowledgeable about colored pencils, to be honest. But it feels pretty good. And if I try to really go opaque with it, and this seems pretty solid. I'm going really hard and it's not breaking. It's very nice so far. This is more of a coral compared to the other orange. This one is more of a purpley pink. This is a more neutral pink, and it's not as neon as the tip of the crayon. Okay, now we have all the darker and more muted pinks. Let's see. This is really a dusty pink. Lovely, lovely color. I thought I would have trouble with pigment with these muted colors, but it seems to be pretty good. Let me do these ones super fast. So in the more muted colors, I didn't have any pigment issues except for this one, which is this one here. It was a little bit more waxy and draggy. And even when trying to get it pigmented, well, I can get it there, but it feels like a lot more work. But these ones were pretty pigmented considering that they're light shades and they're muted shades as well. This is a nice selection. For skin tone and even for landscapes, I really like these colors more. The one that I had more trouble and was more draggy is Eggshell. And Snow didn't show up. It's a very pale beige, like leaning a bit on the yellow side, but very lightly. It's not a pure white, but you see that on a toned paper, it shows up. Good enough for me. Let's do the dark shades. This is called Chalk Tone. Looks like a very, very dark brown. Midnight, assuming this is a black. It's a nice black. Pretty smooth, not the smoothest black I've ever used, but pretty smooth. I bought a black recently that I really like. Ivory Black by Derwent. Let's compare it. Oh yeah, there's no comparison. This Ivory Black by Derwent feels better. It might not look that much better, but it feels a lot better. This one, this Midnight one, also leans a little bit more on the warm yellowish side, but it's good. This is Mud. It's a warmer brown, and it feels very good. Light Mocha. Here's a gray. This is a mid to dark gray. This is an ochre. This one is Suede. These are very nice shades of beige. And if I look at both sets so far, there's still variation. There's no repeat colors, so they're very complementary. Appreciate that. This is a golden green, I guess. really nice for foliage in a landscape. This is going to be so much fun to use as a landscape set as well. Leans very much brown. There's not that much difference between these two. The browns are very disappointing because they're a little bit too close. I wish there was like a mid one that was lighter. I understand that this leans more yellow, this leans more red, but I wish there was a middle shade that was in value a bit lighter here. This is probably my favorite color in the set so far. Like looking at it, let's see how it lays. Oh my god, love this. I guess for a portrait, around the eyes, the skin sometimes is grayish purple. Not the most pigmented, honestly, but I could work with it. Leather. It's another variation of ochre or golden. See what I mean? These two are very close. And these two are very close, I guess. In real life, this one is a little bit more saturated. This one is a little bit more muted. It shows up similar on camera. But overall, loving all these here. And in this set, I guess these are easy to find in a regular set. This as well, these as well. But the ochres and this one, this is a nice color that you don't find that much. All right, now I want to try the inks and those little fountain pens, specifically the metallic inks. So I'm gonna get some watercolor paper and I'll do some expressive abstract florals using those inks and trying to get a bit of line work with this, see how it works. Honestly, I have high hopes for it, but something is telling me that how could it work? It's just like a piece of metal. Let's try it out. The first thing I want to try is really doing some line work with these. I'll use the green ink, Muted Green by Liquidex. Let's try this. You have to press kind of hard. Oh, it's working. Oh my god, it's working. I'm gonna try to tighten it. Oh, the tightest does a thin line. Who would have thunk it? Hello. Well, you don't have much control over it, but I guess it could be a good thing, right? Am I putting too much ink? I will say that it goes a long way. I thought I might have to dip every 2 seconds, but it keeps its ink quite a bit. Okay, I'm gonna go wider. Oh, it gives like a really wide. This is so interesting. So when you leave it really wide, it still works. Ink gets trapped. Like there's a little drop of ink that gets trapped in between, and it still works. I love the fact that you can vary the thickness of the line. This is the best feature to me. Let's try the metallics. So usually for these, I would use probably a black ink or a dark ink as a base layer and overlay some of these metallics on top in a more subtle way, but I'm gonna do a weird one now and I'm gonna use them all in the same painting or drawing as a base layer super quickly just to see how it feels and how it looks on paper, on white paper. It doesn't flow the way China ink, like black ink, flows. Feels like black ink has a little bit of like oil in it in a way, and it travels a lot in the water. So you see there's little grains of, I guess, metal or metallic stuff in it. So the process is different. Oh, it's pretty opaque. It's interesting that it's this opaque. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry, see how it dries, and I'm gonna start another one with a dark pigment, probably the dark green, let's try, and then layering some metallic on top. Oh, see, it travels the way. Oh, I love that. It really travels the way China ink does. And that's how I like it. Oh, this is so nice. It's almost like a feather. It's so nice. And all this feathering around. I love this green. It's really beautiful. Look at the detail, all the feathering and the patterns. Obviously when it dries it's gonna get a lot paler, but we're still gonna have the variations of color. This green is probably my favorite green I've ever seen. It's muted green in the acrylic ink by Liquitex section. All right, I did quite a few of these. I did like 8. So I'm gonna show you the messier ones at first and I'll keep the best ones at the end. There's a few things I discovered. So first thing I discovered is that the silver ink, if you mix it with any color, it becomes an iridescent metallic color. So I mixed a little bit of, I think, blue ink with that green that I like, and I added this silver, and it creates a teal peacock color, but metallic. So that's interesting. Obviously this flower is just meh, but it's interesting to see that I can have any ink color that I want and make it iridescent. Obviously it's going to get a bit paler. Let's say I put the silver in a red, it would probably turn a little pinkish, but still. This is the first one that I showed you on camera where I put a bit of all the metallics. So I had a first layer of gold, a bit of silver, and some copper here in the stem. I mixed all the pigments, not all the pigments, but I mixed the green on top of the metallics, and then I added more metallics. I do like the variations in color. I think though that I would use the metallics more as accent as opposed to mixing them up, you know, in the puddles of water. I think I would probably use a solid color, wait for it to completely dry, then go back and add metallic colors. This one is also a little bit messy. I mean, it's interesting, but it's a lot more abstract, you know? See, when I said how I would use it more deliberately, adding some accents, I did this here. I added some line work within the flowers instead of having it just flow within the paint. Here's another bold and messy one. What I've noticed is that all 3 metallics are very thick. These regular inks are fluid inks, and they flow the way you saw when you put a puddle of water and you put just a drop in it. It flows and creates really beautiful patterns of different shades like this. When it dries, you get beautiful variations of shades with the nice edge here. But the metallics don't do that. They're goopy and thick. You have to really, really shake the bottle every time you use it, or else you get a separation between the liquid that's in the bottle and like a thick, almost like if you would squeeze acrylic out of the tube, it really separates. So you have to shake it every time and it really doesn't flow. So you get like a little dust powder over the pigment. I'm not loving it that way, swirling it in within the puddles. I do love the color palette here. I use that muted green with a Prussian blue and the copper. The colors all together is really beautiful. I could see a nice maybe seascape with these colors. That would be nice. The flower is a big old mess though. This one is more successful to me. I kept it minimal with only 2 tones, so the green and the copper. And I did what I was talking about, where I added some opaque copper once everything was dried, and it looks very lovely. I love all the blooming here, the dark green. And as you can see, this stem, I used the new tool for my line work. It created like a double line. I really, really enjoyed that. And I did a bit of spattering. Playing with ink in florals is very, very meditative. It's one of my favorite things to do when I don't want to overthink the process of painting and I just want to have fun and kind of lose myself in it, clear my mind. I like this one. I really like this painting. For this one, I wanted to use mostly silver. I wanted to see how it showed up on a white background, and it's kind of interesting. The first layer was silver. I waited for it to dry, then I went it with a bit of gold here at the bottom here, and at the very end, when everything was dry, I added some green, and I waited for things to dry to get a separation of colors so that the green wouldn't just like puddle into the metallic, and I think it's more successful that way to have them separated like that. I quite like this little bud here. It's very nice. I haven't tried metallic paints or metallic inks like this on dark paper, like on black paper or dark blue paper. I wonder how it would behave and how nice it would look. That's something I should try. Again, here I mostly waited for everything to dry before adding the gold. I started with the green. It wasn't completely dry. As you can see here, you see that the green turned like a more olive green because the gold and the green melded together. And mind you, I did all these really quickly. You know, I didn't really take all my time to think about composition and be like more deliberate in my line work. I just kind of tried a bunch of things. This one is one of my favorites, I think, probably top 2. And you see how I was telling you that those metallics can be really thick. This is very thick. It's raised and it's essentially paint. It's quite beautiful though. And here I tried to use it a little more sparingly in specific sections, but I had not figured out that I should wait for everything to dry and layer the gold on top of a dry section. But I think it's effective anyway. When using metallic, I think using it in a specific little section in a pointed like pop of color kind of way is more effective in my eye, at least. A more focused detail does a job, I think. I think these 3 are probably my favorites. I don't know in what order, but I like them a lot. They would be a nice set altogether. I think there's something interesting about this one. There's a lot going on, but I don't know, there's some depth to it. There's something interesting about it. The mostly silver is interesting as well. These are a bit more messy, but I will remember this color palette because it's really nice. I fully recommend these fountain pens, and if you want to experiment with metallic inks, I would say start with the one color that is more attractive to you, and you'll see how you like the texture. But definitely try ink. The flow of the ink is super addictive. Hope this gave you a little bit of inspiration, all the beautiful art supplies. It certainly does for me. Don't forget to check out the paintings. If ever you're interested in one, you can go visit my website. And if you like art vlogs and finding some inspiration in the art studio, subscribe and share the video with your friends. I will see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching.